Hey, good morning, everybody. So I just want to lead right in with, I think education is incredibly expensive, no matter how it's achieved. And I think I've been a shining example of that. I think my parents would attest to that as well. I started out at a very early age working with electronics and mechanics, hydraulics. I regularly tore apart our TVs and VCRs and destroyed our lawnmowers, and I think that hurt a little bit. I definitely know it hurt my parents' pocketbook a little bit in that respect, but it led me to have just a wonderful education that gave me a great starting point anyhow to gain a better education in all those fields, and has kind of carried with me. And they really inspired me a lot to continue on with that and take what they saw I was learning from destroying things around our place and invited me to go work with a local neighborhood TV VCR repair guy. I was about 14 when I started working there, and that allowed me to kind of get some experience with customer service and learning how to actually repair things rather than taking them apart and destroying them and sending them to an early grave. So that was majorly beneficial, helped me take that next step to actually do something productive. And that kind of springboarded over the years and allowed me to move into eventually working for a company that did commercial and industrial security. And I began to work at different refineries and courthouses and learned a lot of different aspects of this particular trade of installing security and watching other business owners as they put together their business and kind of built things up. And once again, learned quite a bit through that process. Eventually, what that would lead to is I was running a large low voltage division of a company for a long time and began to realize that this just wasn't me, like this 9-to-5 thing, this not having more involvement in that entire process of running the business and being engaged with every aspect of it. That was really me. And so about 2010, I jumped out and I started my own company for the first time. And then, of course, it was incredibly nerve-wracking. It was like disastrous. Oh my God, what do I do? I've never been here before. This was a horrible decision. Once again, expensive education. It cost me quite a bit, but it got me to a point where I learned a lot very quickly and allowed me to get very comfortable with going through that process. Within 5 years, I had built that company up a great deal and had all the local courthouses and municipalities, schools, sheriff's offices, police departments, had pulled in a lot of big clients and was really enjoying it. And eventually I got a phone call. I was on vacation down in Key West, and I got a phone call from an old friend that said, hey, as soon as you're back, you need to get a hold of these guys. You're gonna love them. You need to go meet these guys. And I just assumed that meant throughout the week when you get back, you'll go meet these people. Well, I called them the night I got to the airport at Sunday at 6 p.m. or so. And these group of brothers said, well, hey, you got to come over right away. Can you meet us tonight at 8:30? And I'm like, Sunday night at 8:30? Sure, why not? It's worth a shot. So I went over and I met the Shapiro brothers. And little did any of us know how much that would change the future course of their business, my business, and ultimately lead to forming the partnership that we're in now. But I did some security work for them, and ultimately I was at this point where I realized that security work wasn't my thing. I didn't want to be doing this boilerplate stuff. I needed something a little more challenging, and one day their giant factory had gone down, their assembly line had went down. And they said, hey, you want to take a shot at helping us out here? We're bleeding money. And I did. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. I managed to get them back online and finally allowed me to get into what I enjoy doing the most, which is industrial robotics and advanced theater automation and controls and things along those lines. And was very inspirational to have that opportunity with those guys. And then, as that progressed over the years, we would get to be really good friends. And that friendship would kind of keep us all in tune with one another as we ventured into different things. And I grew my business doing the robotics and controls and what have you. And they would grow their business even further. And they've got a couple hundred employees now. And that's sort of what led to where we're at now. We decided we wanted to form yet another business together and go into partnership and work to create devices and products that would help people with large companies deal with pandemic type situations and deal with the challenges that we've faced over the past year and a half, and put people in a better position where businesses can be more comfortable interacting with clients and what have you.
First question, what are these devices that you are helping during such a time?
So what we've done is that, we took a look at, hey, let's say a business has 100, 1,000 employees, or a service business perhaps that has a bar or a restaurant, and there's employees that are interacting with clients coming in. How do we increase confidence between the employees and confidence between the clients and the employees? And so the products that we came up with, we've decided to kind of take a threefold approach to it. All three products are devices that take your body temperature, monitor your body temperature, and help to transmit that up into the cloud so that your employer and or other employees working on the floor in the field can all have a good depiction of what everybody's temperature is, make sure you're all safe. Right now we're kind of tackling it with the temperature gun type thing is what everybody's kind of fallen back to, which are horribly inaccurate. And so we wanted a more accurate device. And what we've got is hats, earbuds, and also a belt clip that can be worn beneath the clothing. And all three of those devices use your phone or a Bluetooth gateway to transmit your temperature data up into the cloud where an employer, HR person, somebody can monitor it and keep an eye on it.
So I noticed your hat flashing earlier.
Yeah.
Is that what that is?
It is, yeah. Just being dead honest, the hat is probably one of my lesser favorite interpretations of the device. It offers up a few challenges, so I'm glad we have some other devices that help accommodate that. But the general concept is it's a simple go, no-go device that can be used anywhere at all. And what it does, it uses that local LED to give you a go, no-go indication. If it's flashing green, your temperature's within spec. If it turns red, well, you're over temp.
First of all, what a great example of leveraging an opportunity. Seeing an opportunity, feeling the pain points, and coming in and doing something about that. So congratulations on doing that. Secondly, your primary target audience, it sounds like, I'm not going to say sounds like, you tell me what those are, and your target audience, and do you have the opportunity to impact smaller business with the devices that you have?
So yeah, our initial target audience, if we could have things our way, Amazon would call us tomorrow morning and say we want 4 million hats. So in some respect, yeah, larger warehouses, food service industry, those are definitely our initial go-to targets. But we've worked really hard to develop not only the software, but the hardware to be affordable, but also be a type of product that can be used by a small family, that can be used by a small business that has 2 employees. It doesn't necessarily have to be this very large, scaled up type of implementation. It can be something that's very small and constrained and can grow with your business as well.
And the follow-up to that is there an ongoing charge for the maintenance of this month by month or whatever?
So as part of our business model, that was the approach, we've got essentially 2 products. One product is physical device, comes with a free app for your phone. That's all one-time purchase. You can use that as much as you wish. Then as we migrate into those larger clients where they do want the cloud service and you've got 100 employees that you need to keep an eye on, that cloud service is where we have the recurring generation with, we're looking at some different tiered pricing structures for that to try and get some recurring revenue to support that service, provide that service to you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
What's the life cycle on your products look like?
So that was something we worked really hard to target starting out. So just based on my background, the hardware and software development side of this has been primarily my goal was to get that out there. And the life cycle on the product was something I really wanted to maintain. I wanted to have a product that wasn't just like throw away, hey, you bought this hat and now 6 months goes by, call me up, buy another one. So we've worked hard to ensure that we're using some easily recyclable, rechargeable batteries, But the concept is that you should be able to get 5 to 7 years out of a given device without having to throw it in the garbage. No.
Is this something that you found that potentially an aging parent and a child that's older would use to monitor their parent from afar?
Yes. Yeah, we found a few different applications, and I know I kind of led in with, hey, this is sort of centered around pandemic or sickness, but in reality, there's quite a few different scenarios in which personal temperature monitoring is important. There are several devices available medically right now within the healthcare industry that are similar, but not designed around the same criteria. They're not designed for longevity. They're designed for temporary use. They're throwaway. They're some stick-on, badge or something of that nature. So we've really hoped anyhow that we could place ourselves in such a way that we're available in those markets. Similarly, heat stroke is a big thing. Construction sites and what have you. It's well outside of any sickness, but it does happen. People don't drink enough water. They're out working in the hot sun, and it happens. It's actually a pretty large thing. Now, obviously, it doesn't result in a lot of fatalities throughout the year here in the U.S., but it does result in a lot of hospital visits and a lot of workers' comp claims and what have you. So we're hoping we can kind of position ourselves in that market as well and say, okay, let's monitor, like you said, family members' temperatures and or be out in the workplace to monitor for heat stroke. Oh.
Along the line of what you were just speaking about, what is the potential, or is this device calibrated for those false positives? For example, a worker, somebody they're out in the car at lunch, it's 100 degrees out, 90 degrees out. Is that going to register a no-go situation?
So actually it won't. We've part of my hardware design and the software that I've written inside of the device, we've worked very hard to ensure that we're actually sensing ambient temperature as well. And then we use a formula to calculate and determine how much offset we need to put in with that temperature calculation to ensure that we're still reading your temperature accurately. And we've actually just got some new prototype units that are coming in within the next week or two that go even one step further and have multiple sensors to help ensure that if it is used with a hard hat or it is used, out on the golf course or out in a construction site where it's 110 degrees and the sun's blaring, that there are zero issues with that and we don't get any false positives.
Two-part question. So what phase of the product cycle are you in? Are you in manufacturing or in distribution right now? Are you still in R&D? And then also, did you go about seed funding, Series A? Like, what's the plan there?
Okay, so to go through the first part, where we're at with the product. With the hats, we are at a distribution point. This recent order I've placed, I've got 1,000 units coming in that we're going to be trying to hand out to some very interested people to start getting the product out there and use so that, we've got some real world tests for our sake. And also, surely it helps to have people using your product. It's a lot easier to sell if that's taking place. So given that we have more than just the hat, we're kind of in different cycles with all of those products. So the belt clip is prototype at this point. I've got, 10 prototypes built with it, but ready to roll into pre-production with it. The earbud, that is entirely prototype at this point, hasn't been released. It's probably something that won't come out until like Q3 this year or something like that. Funding-wise, we are primarily self-funded. My client and friends back east here that we've partnered up with, they've primarily funded most of the development, a lot of this, and are very interested in continuing to do so. We've talked about opening it up and taking some opportunities if they seem well adjusted enough to what we want to achieve, but at this point we'd like to mostly remain self-funded with it.
When you come out with different ideas and different models and things, do these items have to touch your body, or could we put it in a pouch so I can give it to a different employee and day by day someone else can use it? Or how close to your body and can it be read? So
that was one of our design criteria that we kind of fought back and forth with, and what we settled on was they do end up touching your body. There is physical contact with the actual temperature sensor. So initially that was kind of our target. We're like, well, wow, wouldn't it be nice if we could have it where it could be put in a protective container of some type and you could change them between employees, but given the cloud monitoring aspect and maintaining compliance with HIPAA and all that, we kind of steered away from that. We said, okay, let's just make it's your device. Once you've picked this thing up, it's yours, and that's it. So.
Okay, this could be real scalable really quickly. Have you guys thought through that, the process of that? Because I heard self-funding on the front end of that, but is there a contingency plan if it just goes crazy and then the Amazons do start calling you, you have to hit that distributor market, or it scales at a pace that you really didn't foresee? Is there a contingency for that?
So there is, yeah, and I've actually worked very hard since I guess about November to, it's kind of a lot of mental strain, but I've worked with a lot of parallel tasks with this, where it's like, yeah, okay, I want to have 10 of these to prototype for my sake, and I want to have 100 of them to be able to distribute right here and now if you said you want some. But similarly, I've worked real hard to keep that a parallel type thing, where all of our cloud development is done on Amazon Web Services, so it can be immediately scaled tomorrow morning to millions of clients if we so desire. And then production-wise, that's been part of the game the whole way for me as well, is let's make sure that we're getting quotes on quantity 100,000, 500,000 units. Let's make sure we've got a hat manufacturer lined up, a clip manufacturer, and they're ready to go, and we know what their lead times are. And we've also looked at, the scalability of those costs so that we can know, okay, it's, if we do get that phone call, if Walgreens calls and says we need 200,000 of these and we want them on the cloud, what do we have to do? We got to drop 250 grand. What's it going to take? So we have looked pretty closely at that, and we've got a pretty great roadmap put together to help us, come to that if we're fortunate enough for that to take place. So, thank you.
So what are the price ranges on your devices?
So we haven't put together a real solid price structure on the earbud side yet, again, with that multi-tier kind of thing. The hats right now we're looking at, if you're down in lower quantities, 10 or less units, we're looking at somewhere in the $40 price range. We actually did a Kickstarter launch about 30 days ago. We were a little premature with that. We didn't quite, we were all just real excited. We were like, oh, it works. Okay, let's get it out there. And so that kind of, I won't say it hurt. It totally helped. We spent a ton of money on marketing on Facebook and stuff with the group up out of Denver, and it was very beneficial. It gave us a lot of great feedback, a lot of, helped us see a lot of where the discomfort is with the product and how we can better target that and be like, yeah, okay, maybe the hat isn't the greatest thing. People don't like having a big red light saying I'm sick, especially when they're, that can be bad in certain scenarios. So that was great. Gave us some good feedback. But yeah, price range we put up on there around $40. Ideally, I think originally we wanted to target a little lower. We wanted to be like $32 to $35 a hat, and we may get back there. But in the same token, we get out and we look at other products and what they're selling for that are doing similar things. And it's like, gosh, we could charge $140 for the hat, and apparently people would still pay it. So I think we're in a good place there.
You mentioned HIPAA, and I just wonder about the personal privacy part of this, wrestling with that and pushback, and what does that look like?
So obviously that's a huge concern for people in the public side of it. So that was one of the biggest things getting out on Facebook with it is, how do you educate 100,000 people that you don't have a direct interaction with as to every aspect of your product? And you really can't. So there's a lot of assumptions made. But we have worked real hard on that. We've actually worked with several different doctors and what have you to help, ensure that our product is both applicable within the healthcare market and meets those HIPAA regulations. And that's part of our software design as well, is the way that data goes from my hat to my phone to the cloud, which is doing actively right now as we speak. The path that data takes, what it's required to access that, all of that stuff is super secured and meets all the necessary required regulations to keep us within spec there so that we don't run into any issues. And then ultimately, one thing that we've done uniquely with our app that is different from Facebook, say, or a large majority app developers out there is privacy is our number one concern. So there's 2 pages on our app. One shows you your temperature. The other page has a bunch of check boxes where you can disable every single feature if you want to. You don't want to share your temperature? Fine, uncheck it. You don't want to share your location? Uncheck it. So you can manually go in, disable all that. It's very clear, very concise.
So do you recharge like a battery in it? Do you take your hat off at night and put it on a charger? How does that work? And how long does that last? I mean,
So we've got a few different variants. The one I'm wearing right now, this one's non-rechargeable. So this one was one of our first run devices, and this will run for anywhere from 2 to 3 years off of the little battery that's in it. The devices are super low power. It was designed around a specific device that's meant for doing exactly what we're doing. Not necessarily body temperature monitoring, but temperature reporting to a phone or a Bluetooth device. The latest model, that is a totally rechargeable device. So it'll run for about 6 to 8 months on one charge. So you got to charge it, if you plug it in once every 2 or 3 months, you're golden. You're good to go there. Yeah.
So the data that you're collecting is incredibly powerful data, and to have that real-time, long snippet of time, plus the location data of temperatures, will employers get access to reporting for their employees? Say you've got 100 employees out on a construction site, and you're able to monitor the ambient temperature, their internal temperature, and their location. You can probably devise what they're doing and how it's impacting their bodies, workers' comp-wise as well as employment and safety-wise, or even taking it bigger, all of this data, and then, none of us want our data sold, but selling it to a research firm could probably provide some really great information. Have you guys thought about that back-end reporting?
So we have, and that was, initially when we first started working with this, these guys had already my partners had put together some basic prototypes, and all it was a red and green light, and there was no cloud, there was no app, and I brought all that to their attention, and especially, namely for that reason, the fact that some of that data, even if it is totally anonymous and doesn't have a name tied with it, is potentially very helpful. It can be helped to monitor the spread of different disease. It can be helped to monitor potential risks and issues. In regards to location sharing, part of what we've done to try and add a little more comfort to the user side of this, or the employee side of it, is we've made it so that the location is not provided unless you do spike a fever. So if your temperature goes over, then your employer gets your location data, which is nice. If you get a heat stroke, you're out on the job, maybe you've passed out in the corner somewhere, or somebody doesn't know where you're at, it's great because it can help, lead someone to your location, help them find you. So we have looked at that, and that is, we do offer reporting and a lot of data gathering on the employer side, where you can pull up histories of some of that temperature data and that information.
Perfect. Again, amazing questions this morning. Who would like to have the honor of asking our super special question to the second presenter today?
What can we as the Colorado Springs small business community do to help you grow your business?
So I gave this a lot of thought, and I think that what's most beneficial to us, to help us grow our business, is to give us some really pointed feedback on how you view the device. I really valued what we got out of that marketing campaign on Facebook, and finding all that negative feedback and people saying all the things they didn't like about it. And I think that's incredibly valuable. So to hear some more of that, and to hear, no, I hate the hat, I'd never wear it, or I don't like the belt clip, or I don't like this. And to hear that kind of feedback and concerns, I think is really beneficial to help us grow and to help us better position our product. Thank you.